Family, today we decode one of the most misunderstood passages in Scripture, the story where God allegedly asked Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. We read it literally and concluded, God tested Abraham by asking for his son. But the moment you say that, you create a God who violates his own nature, a God who condemns murder yet demands it, a God who gives life yet requires human sacrifice, a God who claims to be love yet behaves as cruelty. That alone tells us this story cannot be literal. It must be symbolic, metaphoric, mystical, and revelatory. Everything in Genesis is a code. Let's decode it. God does not need to test what he created perfect. Testing only happens when you don't know the outcome. But God is omniscient, perfect, complete, all-knowing. So why would God need to test Abraham? To see whether he is faithful? To check if he will obey? To find out what is in his heart? Impossible. God formed Abraham. God breathed his spirit into Abraham. God knows the end from the beginning. A God who tests is a God who lacks information. That is not the I am. So, the testing of Abraham is not about God needing to see something. It's about Abraham awakening to something within himself. The entire story is symbolic of the awakening journey. Abraham represents the spirit-led consciousness. Isaac represents the identity birthed through promise. The mountain represents ascension in awareness. Artistic close-ups of symbolic elements. An ornate ceremonial knife catching sunlight, representing separation. A ram's horn among thorny bushes, representing old mindsets. A stone altar with natural lighting, creating sacred atmosphere. The knife represents the separation between ego and true self. The ram represents the old mindset caught in the thicket. The altar represents surrendering illusion. The actor returns on screen, now with more dynamic lighting that shifts subtly as she speaks. Her gestures are more animated as she reveals the core truth. Books and scrolls visible in the background suggest deep study. This is not a story of child sacrifice. It is a story of identity sacrifice, the death of the old self so the true self can emerge. God never wanted Isaac. God wanted Abraham to let go of fear. Abraham had one weakness left: fear of losing what God gave him. Isaac was the promise, but Abraham's heart clung to the gift more than the giver. So the story dramatizes what happens inside all of us. God is not asking you to surrender people. God is asking you to surrender attachments, illusions, identities, fears, and ego structures. The sacrifice was never Isaac. It was Abraham's fear. Take your son is code for go within to the point of surrender. The Hebrew phrase translated as take your son actually implies ascend within, bring what you fear losing to the altar of awareness. A peaceful, sacred interior space with soft natural lighting streaming through windows. Candles create warm ambience. The space represents the inner sanctuary of the soul where true transformation occurs. This is an inner journey, not a physical event. No fire, no knife, no blood, no dead child. just a story describing the inner crucifixion of fear and the resurrection of trust. The mountain is symbolic of higher awareness. Mount Moriah means seen by God, or God reveals. Abraham going up the mountain represents ascending consciousness, rising above ego, fear, and attachment. Quick montage of mountain imagery. Moses-style mountain with clouds. Transfiguration-style mountain with ethereal light. Ark on mountain imagery, all connected by similar lighting and composition to show the pattern. This is why. Moses goes up the mountain. Jesus transfigures on a mountain. The ark lands on a mountain. Revelation's final vision is on a mountain. The mountain is where illusion dies and truth is unveiled. The sacrifice is the death of the old mindset. When Abraham lifted the knife, he wasn't about to kill Isaac. He was about to kill the part of himself still attached to fear. And what happened? A voice called out, "Do not lay a hand on the boy." Why? Because the story is showing you that God never desired literal sacrifice. God desired the death of fear, not the death of a child. Immediately, a ram is revealed. A ram caught in thorny bushes, shot with beautiful natural lighting that emphasizes the symbolic nature rather than literal sacrifice. The thorns represent mental entanglement. The ram represents old thinking patterns. The ram symbolizes the old identity, old ways of thinking, ego caught in the thicket, the sacrificial mindset humanity needed to release. It's saying, let your fear die, not your promise. God was revealing his true nature, not testing Abraham. The real revelation is the name Abraham gives God, Jehovah Jireh. The Lord provides, not the Lord tests, not the Lord takes, not the Lord demands blood. No, the Lord provides. Beautiful imagery of divine provision, abundant harvest, flowing water, sunrise over fertile land. The lighting emphasizes abundance and life rather than death and sacrifice. In the story itself, God stops the sacrifice. Yet religion claims God wanted one. But the text says God intervened, God stopped it, God provided a substitute, God affirmed life, not death. The whole point of the story is the opposite of what religion taught. Isaac was never in danger. The ego was. This story is about the awakening of awareness, the surrender of fear, the letting go of ego control, the revelation of God as provider, the spiritual maturity of Abraham. Isaac symbolized the new identity, the true self birthed from the promise. God would never ask you to sacrifice the identity he gave you. He would only ask you to sacrifice the false identity your mind created. The story prophesies the inner Christ. Just like Isaac carried wood up the mountain, your soul carries the weight of illusion. Just like a ram was caught in the thicket, your ego is tangled in thoughts, thorns. Powerful imagery of light breaking through darkness, representing spiritual liberation. Rays of light cut through shadows, symbolizing the word cutting away illusion. Just like Abraham lifted the knife, your spirit lifts the word to cut away illusion. Just like God stopped the sacrifice, Christ stops you from self-destruction. Everything points inward. The final revelation. God never demands blood. The idea that God needs sacrifice comes from religion, not God. God never required child sacrifice, animal sacrifice, blood sacrifice, human suffering. What God desired was always, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. A broken and contrite heart I will not despise. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Present your bodies as a living sacrifice, which is your reasonable service. Living sacrifice equals awakened identity, not death. The Abraham story is the clearest symbol of this truth. God never asked for Isaac. God asked for Abraham's fear. When you read Genesis symbolically, the message is beautiful. God does not test. God does not demand blood. God does not require pain. God does not take life. God does not ask for sacrifice. God asks for alignment. God asks for trust. God asks for surrender of fear. God asks for identity awakening. God asks for you to see who you truly are. This is the gospel Jesus revealed. Remember who you are. Let the old self die. Let the true self live. Abraham didn't sacrifice Isaac. Abraham sacrificed fear. And that is the symbolic message for all generations.